The gravy boat never made it to the table. It was 3 minutes to grace when he hissed, "You're late again," shoved his chair back, and kicked my shin so hard the candle flames trembled. Forks froze midair. His mother sucked her teeth. An uncle made that low contempt sound people use when they think cruelty is discipline. I didn't cry. I put the gravy on the runner, straightened the napkin that had slid off my lap, and looked at every face around the long oak table. His sisters, their husbands, 2 loud cousins, the aunt who collects apologies like souvenirs. My shin burned. My heart did not. "Excuse me," I said. Someone chuckled. Someone else muttered, "Drama." The football game buzzed in the den, a cheap distraction for cheaper men. I walked to the foyer, picked up my bag, and zipped it with the calm you use when the baby's sleeping and the dog is watching. He followed. "Don't you dare make a scene on my Thanksgiving." On the coat tree hung the scarf I knitted last winter, the one his mother admired and never returned. I looped it once around my neck. "You made the scene," I said softly. "I'm just changing the set." He smirked. "Where are you going to go? Your name isn't even on the house." Behind him, the family leaned into the hall like spectators at a parade. I studied his face, so sure of himself, so fluent in the language of ownership. Then I looked past him to the doorbell camera's tiny glass eye, the one he insisted on installing for packages. "Smile," I said. "You're on the record." He laughed and turned back to the kitchen. The aunt called after me, "You know how men are, baby. Sit down and be grateful." I stepped onto the porch, crisp air biting my lungs, and pulled out my phone. On my wallpaper, a list, short and neat. Clerk's office, recording number 4821, stamped. Title insurance, active. Locksmith on call. Sheriff, number saved. I dialed the first one. County recorder, a warm voice answered. "This is Tony." "Hi, Tony. It's Maya. I need a certified copy of a deed you recorded for me in June. I'm ready for the next step." "The trust deed? I remember you." Papers rustled. "You did everything by the book. When do you want the certified copy?" "Tomorrow morning." "And can you confirm it shows me as grantee and trustee?" "It does," she said. "You're solid." I thanked her, then called the locksmith. "Yes," I told him. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m., bring deadbolts." He whistled softly. "Holiday special?" "Something like that." Inside, the dining room chorus swelled again. Glass clinks, a laugh too bright, his voice lifting as if nothing had happened. I sat on the porch swing we never used because he said it made the house look too soft. I pressed the last number on my list. Sheriff's office. A calm baritone. Non-emergency line. "I'll have a locksmith changing locks on a deeded property tomorrow morning," I said, steady. "There may be a disturbance. I have doorbell footage of an assault tonight, if that helps." "We could do a civil standby," he said. "Name? Address? Time?" I gave him everything. "Ma'am," he added gently, "if you're hurt right now." "I'm safe tonight," I said, and hung up before my voice could betray the tremor building in my throat. I could have gone to my sister's, could have driven until the radio fuzzed into AM ghosts, but I didn't. I sat in my car at the curb and watched the windows glow gold, watched them pass bowls and judgments, watched him play the role of man of the house beneath a roof that didn't know his name. My phone buzzed. A text from his sister, Lila. "Are you okay?" I typed, "Tomorrow, 9 a.m. If you want to keep this family out of handcuffs, make sure your brother is elsewhere." 3 dots. "Then, he won't listen to me. Then tell your mother," I wrote. "She's the only person he hears." 10 minutes later, the porch light flicked twice. Their code. The door opened and his mother stepped out, arms wrapped in a cardigan, eyes shiny with 1,000 almost apologies. "Maya," she whispered. "Come back in. People are here." "I know," I said. "You can't do this to him." There it was, the reflex. Now what did he do to you? But what might happen to him if you stop absorbing it? I opened my purse, pulled out a copy of the June recording receipt, and placed it in her palm. Her thumb brushed the raised seal. She blinked down at it, confusion, then understanding, then the kind of fear money can't soothe. "You already filed," I said. "Recorded. Insured." She stared past me at the house, at the wreath she picked, the runner she ironed, the grandchildren photos arranged on the piano like trophies of survival's past. "Where will I go?" she asked, so small I almost missed it. You'll stay, I said. On paper. Her head snapped back. What? Tomorrow, I said. I'll bring something else to show you. It has your maiden name on it. For a second, the porch light hummed louder than both our breathing. She didn't know yet what it meant. Only that it meant I had thought of her in a world where she was usually the one asked to think of everyone else. Inside, he shouted, Ma, we're carving. She flinched, swallowed, and tucked the receipt into her sweater like a fragile bird. 9, she asked. 9, I said. She reached for my hand, but stopped midway, fingers hovering in the charged air between us. Then she turned and went back into the house that had just moved, silently, beneath his feet. I drove to a motel off the highway. The clerk slid a key card and didn't ask why my eyes were glassy or why I stood like my shin didn't hurt. In the room, I set my bag on the desk, took off my scarf, and laid it carefully next to my notebook. The doorbell app pinged 3 times. Front door, kitchen, front door again. Each notification a little bead on a chain I would wear in a court if I had to. I showered. The bruise on my leg flared purple under the water. I pressed a towel there and counted breaths until the ache folded into a quiet I could stand. On the nightstand, my phone lit up with a new message from Lila. He's drunk angry now. Says he'll fix your little paperwork. I texted back. Tell him to sleep. He'll need his strength to play surprised. I turned off the lamp. In the dark, the ceiling hummed. Tomorrow would be loud. Metal tools, key pins, a deputy's boots on tile, the thud of suitcase, the kind of silence a storm leaves behind. I pictured the locksmith's steady hands. I pictured the sheriff's clipboard. I pictured my own name, neat and correct, printed where he had always assumed as would be. My phone vibrated one last time. Unknown number. This is Tony from the clerk. I came back after hours. Your certified deed will be waiting at 8:30. And good luck. Good luck, I whispered to the ceiling, and for the first time in a long time, the words felt like they belonged to me. At 8:29 a.m., I would be in line, receipt in hand. At 8:45, I would drive home. At 9 o'clock, I would change the locks. At 9:02, a cruiser would roll to a gentle stop at the curb. And at 9:10, with 3 turns of a key and 1 signature on a service log, I would move Thanksgiving to a new address, mine. The locksmith text buzzed, running 5 minutes late. Also, your husband just pulled up. At 8:57 a.m., the street was quiet enough to hear the flag on the neighbor's porch click against its pole. Frost clung to the hydrangea leaves along our front walk. My breath showed in small clouds. The locksmith's van texted, 5 minutes late, traffic by the high school. Also, looks like your husband just pulled up. A black pickup nosed into the driveway too fast, gravel spitting. He jumped out, slammed the door, scanned the street like a man who thinks volume equals power. A cousin slid out on the passenger side, phone already in his hand, grinning at the promise of content. Morning, I said, voice even. He stared at the manila envelope in my arms. What is this? You think you're going to embarrass me with paperwork? I think paperwork is the only language this house speaks, I said. He stepped closer, eyes narrowing. You don't have the right. Before I could answer, Lila's sedan rolled to a careful stop at the curb. She got out without slamming anything, a peace flag in the shape of a woman. He wouldn't listen, she said softly to me. Then, louder to her brother, stop. Don't make it worse. He laughed, sharp and humorless. How could she make it worse? The house is mine. I brought coffee, Lila said, holding out a paper cup like it might absorb a storm. Her other hand shook around her keys. My phone buzzed. Sheriff Civil standby, deputy en route. ETA 2 to 4 minutes. Relief floated in my chest and sat there, a small warm stone. He leaned toward me, lowering his voice so the neighbor across the street wouldn't hear. You walk away now, we forget last night. You come back for dinner. You apologize to my mother. You kicked me, I said, still even, in front of everyone. He flinched, not at the truth, but at the fact I said it out loud. The front door opened. His mother stood in the threshold, cardigan wrapped tight, the porch light unnecessary in the morning cold but still burning above her like a halo, too tired to glow. Her eyes went straight to the envelope in my arms, then to my face. 9? Her look asked, 9, I said, and showed her the stamped receipt through the plastic sleeve. His cousin lifted his phone higher, framing my hands. Say hello to Facebook Live, he crowed. Put that down, Lila snapped, surprising all of us with her spine. A cruiser turned onto our street, lights quiet, presence loud. It rolled to the curb like a teacher entering a classroom, and a deputy stepped out, hat low, posture relaxed but ready. Mid-40s, maybe, with the kind of calm people either trust or fear. Morning, he said. Civil standby for a lock change? Yes, I said, holding up my ID and the clerk's stamp copies. I also have footage of an assault last night, if you need it later. He glanced at my shin, the edge of the bruise just visible below the hem of my jeans, then at my face. We'll handle one thing at a time. He turned to my husband. Sir, I'm here to keep the peace. No one is going to jail for talking. But if anyone puts hands on anyone, my job changes. You can't change my locks, my husband blurted. This is my house. Do you have documentation showing you as the owner of record? The deputy asked, tone still neutral. He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at his cousin. My name is on the mortgage? I offered. Maybe. Title is different. The locksmith's been finally swung up and parked behind the cruiser. A man in a navy hoodie hopped out with a rolling case, gave the deputy a polite nod, and looked to me for a green light. Hold up, my husband barked, stepping between the locksmith and the door. Nobody touches my locks. Sir, the deputy said, step to the side, please. She's showing me a certified deed. You can show me yours if you have one. I don't have to show you anything, he said, chest puffing. Then you don't have to stand there either, the deputy replied, tone still quiet, eyes not leaving my husband's. Your mother can remain if the current owner allows it. No one else needs to be inside while the cylinders are changed. His mother's hand fluttered at her throat. I would like to stay, she whispered, more to me than to anyone else. You can, I said. Of course. My husband stared at her like she had betrayed him by breathing. Ma. She looked at me like a woman who had ironed too many tablecloths to believe in miracles. And then she took 3 small steps to stand at my side, just behind the deputy. It was not a war move. It was a safety one. My phone buzzed again. Tony, window opens at 8:30. I left your certified copies with the duty clerk. 2 minutes later, sending you a scanned copy too, just in case. A PDF popped in my inbox, crisp as a new bill. Let me see your papers, the deputy said to me, businesslike now. I handed over the packet. The recorded deed to the Maple Street Trust, the trust naming me as trustee, the title insurance binder, the assessor's printout, the tax bill that had arrived last month addressed to Maya L. Brooks, trustee. He scanned the first pages, eyes moving the way trained eyes do. You did this properly, he said, almost to himself. Folks think the biggest voice wins these things. He glanced up. Usually, the biggest paper does. My husband exhaled in a scoff that sounded like a laugh with its humor removed. You think a piece of paper makes you bigger than me? No, I said. I think a piece of paper makes a lock change a lot quieter. He stepped closer again. The deputy slid one small step into his space, a human comma. The locksmith crouched at the knob. The old cylinder gleamed with the kind of brass that looked expensive and wasn't. His tools made delicate metallic sounds, the tiny clicks of boundaries moving. While he worked, the morning stretched just enough to bring memory in. 3 months ago, I sat in the public library with a legal aid brochure folded in my lap like a secret. The woman from the clinic had kind hands and a folder with tabs. Safety, housing, finances, legal. She drew a little house on scrap paper and wrote, "Deed is not equal to mortgage" under it. He brags about his name on the mortgage, I said. He says it makes him the owner. Mortgages are debt, she explained. Title is ownership. Sometimes both names, sometimes one, sometimes neither. Depends on how the deed was written. But it's his house, I said, out of habit more than belief. Is it? She asked without judgment. Let's check. She showed me the county's public records search. We typed the address. The owner of record appeared in tiny black letters, his mother's name. Not his. The deed date was 8 years old. Sometimes families keep things in parents' names for tax or credit reasons, the clinic woman said. Sometimes the child thinks they'll be added later. Was he? We clicked through, date by date. The chain of title was a neat list. Mother from the builder. No transfer to him. No transfer at all. Taxes posted to her. Mailing address hours. His name didn't appear in the ownership chain anywhere. I felt something in my chest unlock with a click that sounded a little like a locksmith's tool. Not because it meant I had won anything. Because it meant he hadn't either. What about me? I asked. That depends on your route, she said, flipping to the legal tab. You can petition the court for occupancy. You can fight for title through marriage claims. Or you can do something elegant. Elegant. A trust, she said. If the current owner agrees. You create a revocable trust. She transfers the house into it. You serve as trustee. You grant her a life estate. A right to live there, if you want. The trust can reflect any moral truth you need, even if the legal truth has been unkind. Would his mother agree? I asked. She loves him. She might love safety more, the woman said gently. And steadiness. And quiet holidays. 2 weeks later, over tea at her sister's condo, his mother signed the transfer documents with hands that did not shake. He thinks paper is just paper, she murmured, eyes on the signature line. He never learned what paper can do. What do you want? I asked her, last chance to change the shape of the future. I want a place to sit, she said, honest as a cracked plate. A room where no one raises their voice. It does not have to be big. So I wrote her maiden name in the trust as a life beneficiary. A small mercy engraved. When I took the packet to Tony at the clerk's office, she stamped it like a judge's gavel on a tiny desk, then smiled as if she had just watched someone tuck a frightened bird into a safe nest. You did it clean, she said. When you come back for your certified copy, bring me a good story. I'll bring you a quiet one, I said. In the months after, I watched the mailbox turn into a friend. Tax bills with my trustee name. Utility statements corrected one by one. A small envelope from the title company with a binder that smelled like ink and relief. I took pictures of everything. I saved them in 3 places: cloud, external, print. I labeled the file, things no one can shout away. The first cylinder came free with a soft metallic sigh. The locksmith slid it into a plastic bag and handed it to me. Souvenir, he said, mouth quirking. My husband lunged, but the deputy's palm came up like a stop sign. You're going to step back, he said, still not raising his voice. You're going to let this happen, and then you're going to leave for a while. I'll live here, he snapped. The deputy looked at me. As trustee and owner of record, do you wish him trespass? I weighed the word trespass in my mouth like a coin. It was heavy. It was also true. I want him to take his things, what he can carry in one trip, and go, I said. His mother may stay. She has a right to stay. He does not. You can't do that, he barked. You did this, Lila said quietly to her brother, surprising me again. His cousin stopped his live stream just long enough to say, Bro, maybe chill. He turned on his cousin so fast the phone tilted. Get out of my business. It's not your business, Lila said. We're standing on paper that says it isn't. The locksmith moved to the deadbolt. 10 more minutes, he murmured, like a cook calling time on a roast. My phone pinged with a new email. From the county assessor's office, requested historical tax statements attached. I opened the PDF, thumb scrolling. 12 years of property tax bills. Owner name, his mother. Mailing address, our house. Account notes, son pays from joint account. Then a later update. Trustee to pay June. His name didn't appear at all. I turned the screen so his mother could see. Her breath hitched. You never put him on title, I said softly. Not once. Her eyes blurred with something that wasn't quite tears. He wanted to, she whispered. But the bank wouldn't add him. Credit, debt, late payments. He told everyone it was his house anyway. He liked the way it sounded. He liked the way it felt, I said. Different thing. Behind us, my husband paced, a tiger without a cage, because the cage had always been in his head. The deputy's radio crackled once and went quiet again. A car door thumped somewhere up the block. My shin throbbed like it had its own heartbeat. Here, the locksmith said, passing me the second little plastic bag with the old bolt inside. One more. The deputy touched his shoulder microphone. Unit 27, On scene at lock change, all calm. All calm. The words sat in my bones like tea. Open the door, my husband snarled, stepping toward the threshold where the locksmith was working. Sir, the deputy said, the single syllable now edged with steel, step back. He stared at the deputy's badge. He stared at the papers in the deputy's hand. He stared at his mother standing beside me, cardigan wrapped around her like a decision. And he stepped back. The locksmith set the new deadbolt, turned it, and the click sounded like a sentence ending. Keys, he said, pressing 2 into my palm and 1 into an envelope with a service log to sign. He wrote the date, the time, and the words civil standby complete in tidy block letters. Do you want him trespassed now? The deputy asked again, giving me one more chance to change Mercy's shape. Pack 1 bag, I said to my husband. Clothes, personal items. You can arrange with Lila to pick up anything else later with the deputy present. You're not coming back without notice. His face twisted. You can't keep me from... The deputy cleared his throat. She can. I looked at his mother. Do you want to stay here while he packs? Or do you want some air? She looked at the living room behind her, the chair with her throw, the lamp she liked, the photo of 3 generations on the mantel. Her shoulders lowered 1 inch. I'll have a seat, she said, and stepped inside a house that had just been told the truth. My husband stalked down the hall, cursing in a half-whisper to save face in front of the law. Lila stood in the doorway, spine straight, eyes on me like a rope across a canyon. Thank you, she mouthed. For what? For doing it with paper, she said. I signed the locksmith's log, the deputy's standby form, and slipped the old hardware bags into my tote. Things no one can shout away. I thought again, and the phrase felt like a small fence around a big garden. My phone buzzed one more time. A new email from Tony. Subject line, bonus find, archive quitclaim you should see. Inside, a scan of a document I hadn't known existed. 10 years ago, my husband had tried to add himself to the title. Tried. The form was filled, but never recorded, denied for lack of signatures, lack of notarization, lack of something honest that couldn't be faked. He had never owned this house. Not then. Not now. Not ever. I looked up from a screen to see his cousin lift the phone again, eyes bright with chaos. The deputy took 1 step toward him, and he put it down without a word. From the bedroom, a zipper rasped and a drawer slammed. Lila winced. The deputy's jaw worked. The locksmith asked if I wanted matching keys for the side door, too. I nodded. The front door was ours. As the last key cut finished whining, a white sedan slid to the curb. A man in a suit stepped out with a folder and a cheap smile. Good morning, he called. I'm here to serve an emergency motion, exclusive occupancy order, filed late last night. The man in the cheap suit flashed a pleasant smile that didn't reach his eyes. He held up a folder like a magician about to pull out a dove. Emergency motion for exclusive occupancy, he announced to no one in particular. Filed last night. She has to vacate immediately. The deputy didn't even blink. Is there a signed court order in that stack, sir? A motion is pending, Suit said, smoothing his tie. Ex parte. There's a hearing at 11. So, the deputy said, patient as granite. There is not a signed order. Suit hesitated. Not yet. But, then this is service of paperwork, not enforcement of anything. The deputy tipped his hat at me. Ma'am, you can accept service or not, but you don't have to go anywhere without a judge's signature. I'll take it, I said, extending my free hand. Suit slid the packet across my manila envelope, trying to loom and failing. Be advised, he said with courthouse drama solemnity. If you do not appear, the court may issue orders in your absence. I'll be there, I said, and tucked the papers under the certified deed like a parent tucking a child in. Behind us, the locksmith's final key sang its thin metallic note. He handed me a fob with 3 new brass teeth. My hand closed around them like they were warm. My husband barreled back down the hall with a duffel bag. Anger zipped to the teeth. He shouldered past the deputy, then thought better of it and veered. This isn't over, he spat. Actually, Lila said, voice gentle and lethal, it's filed. His cousin, camera back up, aimed it at my face. The deputy looked at him, just looked, and the phone floated down like a leaf. "Sir," the deputy said to my husband, "you're trespassed until further notice. If you return without arrangement, I'll be back for a different reason." "You heard him," his mother said, words steadying as she spoke them. She sank into the armchair by the doorway, the seat where she'd watched decades of holidays blur. "Go cool off." He opened his mouth to answer, met her eyes, closed it. He left without slamming the door, which felt like the first honest thing he'd done all morning. Sue tried one more flourish. "See you in court," he said to me, like a challenge. "See you with exhibits," I replied. He faltered, like the word exhibits had sharp edges, then retreated to his white sedan. I exhaled slowly, then turned to my mother-in-law. "I told you last night I had something with your maiden name on it," I said. "Do you want to see it now?" Her fingers tightened around the sweater. "Please." We stepped just inside the threshold. I opened the trust binder to Article 4. Life estate for beneficiary, her maiden name, the page I had dog-eared 3 times for courage. Lifetime, right to occupy and enjoy. I read softly. No rent. Quiet enjoyment. In this clause, I tapped a line. Any occupant who commits violence or threatens violence loses permission to reside. Her eyes filled. Not the sloppy kind of tears. The real ones that know exactly why they're there. "You wrote my name," she whispered, tracing the letters like Braille for the future. "You wrote rules." "I wrote a room where no one raises their voice," I said. She nodded once, small and fierce. "Good." I checked the time. 9:43. "We need to move," I said. If his lawyer filed the next part, they're hoping I skip and the judge gives them occupancy by default. "What does that mean?" Lila asked, already grabbing her purse. "Means we turn paper into air," I said. "We show up." The deputy escorted us to the car. At court, he said, "Ask for a domestic violence advocate. They'll help you file a TRO if you want it. Bring the doorbell clip and the bruise photos. Judges understand footage." I nodded. "Thank you." He tapped the door frame. "You did this the quiet way," he said. "Good work. Courthouse air always smells like coffee and copier ink." By 10:11, we'd cleared security and were standing in a corridor outside Apartment 5 with a stack of receipts. The certified deed, the trust pages, the assessor printouts, the tax statements Tony had sent, the ring cam clip queued on my phone, and 3 photos of my shin under yesterday's lamp. A woman in a navy blazer with a badge that said Victim Advocate materialized like someone had page calm. "Maya?" she asked, pronouncing my name right on the first try. "Yes. I'm Tasha. Let's build your packet." At a plastic table under a clock whose second hand ticked too loud, we worked. Tasha slid forms toward me and translated judge into English. DV 100, Request for Domestic Violence Restraining Order. DV 110, Temporary Restraining Order, what the judge might sign. DV 105, Child Custody, not applicable for now. MC 025, Attachment pages for details. Exhibit A, Doorbell video still. Exhibit B, Photo of bruise. Exhibit C, Certified deed plus trust life estate. Exhibit D, Tax statements, owner of record chain. Exhibit E, Screenshot of cousin's live stream title, Thanksgiving drama, she crazy, time stamped. Facts only. Dates. No adjectives, Tasha coached. Let the paper do the talking. A clerk poked her head out. Ex parte calendar, 10 minutes. We slid the packet across the counter. The clerk whisked it into the back with the brisk tenderness of a nurse. I texted the deputy the department number in case the judge wanted to stand by outside. He responded with a simple thumbs up. At 11:03, we were called. The courtroom was wood and hush. The judge, a woman with hair the color of good coffee, glanced at the 2 stacks before her, his motion thin, and my opposition plus DVRO thick. "Counsel for the moving party?" she asked, peering over readers. Suit popped up 2 rows back like a prairie dog. "Here, Your Honor." He looked a little smaller without the driveway. "And Ms. Brooks?" the judge said, using my name like a human. "Present, Your Honor," I said, standing. The judge lifted the first page of his motion. "Mr. Counsel, you're asking for exclusive occupancy on an emergency basis because Ms. Brooks abandoned the residence and is threatening to interfere with utilities." Do you have a signed lease or deed showing your client's legal right to possession? Suit cleared his throat. My client has equitable ownership. He's paid a mortgage for years. Mortgages are debt, not title, the judge said mildly, like reciting the alphabet. Any police reports from last night? None, Suit said quickly. Because nothing happened. Tasha touched my elbow. I stepped forward. Your Honor, may I submit Exhibit A? The bailiff took my phone to the clerk, who mirrored the still frame on the courtroom screen. My husband mid-kick, my shin bent away, the holiday, table frozen in witness. A low inhale moved through the benches, then disappeared. Exhibit B, Tasha whispered. I handed up the bruised photos. The judge glanced and nodded, jaw tightening by a millimeter. Exhibit C and D, I said, passing the certified deed to the Maple Street Trust, my trustee page, and a stack of tax statements with his mother's name and, later, mine. Owner of record, I added, just in case words mattered more than pictures. The judge flipped, then looked at Suit. Counsel, your client is neither owner of record nor tenant of record. He presents no lease, no deed, no rent receipts, no signed occupancy agreement. He does present a Facebook Live. Suit opened his mouth, closed it. Motion for exclusive occupancy is denied, the judge said, pen moving. On the DV request, Ms. Brooks alleges an assault in front of multiple witnesses, provides photographic evidence of injury, and corroborating video. Temporary restraining order is granted. She checked boxes with the routinized speed of someone who has done this too often. Stay away 100 yards, no contact, peaceful civil standby for property retrieval to be arranged through the sheriff. Exclusive possession of the residence to petitioner pending hearing. Suit sputtered. But, Your Honor, Thanksgiving, family. This is a courtroom. Counsel, the judge said, not unkindly. Not a reunion. She looked at me again. Ms. Brooks, are there firearms registered to the respondent? The room tightened. I thought of the black case in the hall closet he liked to show off to visiting cousins. There's one handgun, I said, locked in a case. He keeps the key. The judge's pen paused, then continued. Firearms relinquishment ordered within 24 hours to law enforcement. Proof of surrender to be filed. Sheriff to assist. Hearing on permanent orders in 3 weeks. Calendar the date. She slid the signed DV, 110 to the clerk. The clerk slid it to the bailiff. The bailiff stamped copies that sounded like tiny hammers finishing tiny nails. The judge turned to Suit. Counsel, advise your client. Any violation of this order is arrestable. Suit nodded. Less prairie dog now, more wet cardboard. Anything else today? The judge asked, scanning both stacks. Ms. Brooks, this trust document shows a life estate for the respondent's mother. Is she residing in the home? Yes, Your Honor, I said. She has a right to stay and quiet enjoyment. The judge allowed herself the smallest smile a judge is allowed. Good. Make sure she gets a copy of the order. Gavel? No. Just the sound of papers collected and a calendar moving forward. Outside the department, Tasha pressed the stamped CHRO into my hands. You did great, she said. Now, 2 practicals. Send a copy to the sheriff so they can serve him and email a PDF to your doorbell app account just in case you need to show the order on your phone at the door. I nodded like a bobblehead. Thank you for the language. For the boxes. For the everything. Paper, she said, like a benediction. It's quieter than shouting, and it lasts longer. My phone buzzed. A new text from an unknown number. HR at his company. We received a link to a video involving one of our employees. Can you speak today at 3? I looked at Lila. She'd seen the preview on my face. He's going to lose his job, isn't he? She asked. Not quite a question, not quite hope. I don't know, I said. But people are going to start believing the version that has receipts. We stepped toward the elevators. The doors slid open. Inside stood my husband. He froze, eyes flicking from me to the CHRO in my hand to his own reflection in the stainless steel. For a second, all 4 of us, me, Lila, my mother-in-law, and Tasha, looked at him with the same expression, not fear, not triumph, just the quiet comprehension of a door that now opens with a different key. He stepped back to let us pass. As the doors closed, Tasha's phone buzzed. She glanced down and frowned. Heads up, she said. His cousin just posted a new video. He's claiming you stole the house, and that he has proof you forged his signature. The elevator hummed. When we reached the lobby, Tony, the clerk, was waiting on a bench with a manila envelope and wide eyes. Maya, she said, pressing it into my hands. I pulled the original from archives. 10 years ago, he tried to add himself to title with a forged notary. The notary filed a fraud affidavit. You'll want this for the DA. Tony's manila envelope felt heavier than paper. On the flap, her neat handwriting, originals, archive pull. We sat on a courthouse bench. Lila slid closer. My mother-in-law folded her hands like she was back in a pew. Tasha, the advocate, angled so the overhead glare wouldn't wash out the pages. The first document was a quick claim. My husband trying to add himself to title 10 years ago. Except the notary block was a mess. Wrong commission number, expired seal, a signature that looked like it had learned to walk yesterday. Clipped to it, a notary fraud affidavit. I, Patricia V., state under penalty of perjury. The stamp on the attached instrument is not mine. My commission was valid at the time, but I did not witness these signatures. My journal shows no entry for this date. I reported the attempted recording as fraudulent on receipt of the clerk's notice. Tony had highlighted the clerk's notation. Rejected. Notary mismatch. Affidavit on file. Tasha let out a low whistle. This is gold, she said. Property crimes will want it. It shows a pattern, attempted deed fraud. Coupled with last night, the DA's office will take your packet seriously. My mother-in-law traced the notary's neat cursive, then pressed her lips together. He always said the lady at the UPS store took care of it, she murmured. He came home pounding his chest like a drum. Her voice wasn't angry, just tired of the percussion. Property crimes? Lila asked. County DA, Tasha said, already on her feet. Come on. They do intake between 11 and 2. We're walking this in. The DA's intake window had a bulletproof pane and a small tray that made a thunk when you slid documents through. A sign read, be brief, be clear, be honest. An assistant DA, badge clipped to a navy suit, hair in a no-nonsense bun, opened the side door. Klein, she introduced herself. Let's talk an interview too. We sat at a table scarred by 1,000 pens. I stacked the packet. CHRO, certified deed, trust life estate, tax statements, ring cam still, bruised photos, forged notary. Klein skimmed with the speed of someone who reads for blood. DV unit already pinged me about your order, she said without looking up. This, she tapped the forged notary. Takes it from he said, she said to intent. Different department, but we sync. Does this mean criminal? Lila asked. Could be, Klein said. Our statute covers offering a false instrument for recording and notary fraud. The original wasn't recorded. Good news, but the attempt and the affidavit go to his credibility and to any further mischief. We'll open a property crimes file and attach your DV case. She flipped to the trust. Life is state for mom, she read, glancing at my mother-in-law with something like respect. That's smart. Judges like seeing stability for elders. My mother-in-law unclasped her hands. I just want to sit in my chair, she said. You will, Klein said, and meant it. 2 things. Email me the video clip links and the PDF of the forged notary packet. And take this. She slid a 1-page form across to records. Ask for a certified copy of the notary's fraud affidavit. Originals are lovely. Certified copies are courtroom candy. We signed. Klein stood. You've done more in 4 hours than some people do in 4 months, she said. We'll be in touch. By 2:47, we were back at the house. The afternoon sun laid warm squares on the hardwood. In the kitchen, I set the CHRO on a cork board so the header, Temporary Restraining Order, sat eye level. My mother-in-law brewed tea like it was a sacrament. At 2:59, my phone vibrated. HR. Hi, Maya. A woman said over the soft hum of a conference mic, I'm Elena from People Ops at Northline Fabrication. Thank you for speaking with me. Her tone wasn't eager. It was careful. We receive a link to a video, she continued. Your name wasn't attached if you didn't send it. but we take all allegations of workplace violence and conduct seriously, on and off duty. I want to confirm a few facts and let you know our process. I gave the date and time. I said ring camera and family present. I didn't editorialize. Elena asked for permission to retain the clip. I said yes. She asked about the TRO. I emailed the PDF while we were on the call. Our policy requires we place him on administrative leave pending investigation, she said. We may request a formal statement later. For now, you should know his keycard will be deactivated and his access to system suspended. Thank you, I said, and surprised myself by meaning it. After I hung up, the house was very quiet. Lila leaned against the doorframe, eyes glossy with the kind of grief that still loves the person who caused it. My mother-in-law set a teacup down in front of me. Sugar? She asked, her voice the sound of something ordinary surviving. The doorbell app chimed. Front door, package. I checked the feed. A courier left a small padded envelope. When I opened it, a brass key slid into my palm, the kind that belongs to a black pistol case. My stomach dipped. Lila saw my face. What? The gun case key, I said. He mailed it. We went to the hall closet together. The black case sat where it always had. The lock turned easily under the brass tooth. Inside, foam cutout. Empty. He took it, Lila whispered. My phone buzzed with a text from a 7-digit code. The sheriff's auto-notifier firearm relinquishment appointment. Today, 6 p.m. Reminder, bring unloaded firearm and any magazines. I dialed the deputy. He picked up on the first ring. Sheriff Civil, he said. He mailed the key, I said. The case is empty. Copy, he said. Paper rustled on his end. We served him the order an hour ago. He acknowledged the firearm clause and scheduled a 6 p.m. turn-in. If he fails to show or shows without it, we write it up and notify the DA. What happens then? Could be a warrant, he said. Don't borrow trouble. If he brings it, great. If he doesn't, the system moves. My mother-in-law stood with her fingers resting on the closet door, eyes on the hollow where something heavy used to be. He takes things, she said softly. Takes, then says they were his all along. We're putting things back where they belong, I said. At 3:41, Tony texted. Certified copy of the notary's fraud affidavit ready. Swing by any time today. I'll wait if you need me to. At 4:12, Elena from HR emailed. Administrative leave confirmed. Security will escort him to retrieve personal items from his desk at 4:30. Company property retained. At 5:05, Klein sent. Property crimes file opened. Thank you for the clean PDFs. DV unit copied. Keep your phone on around 6 in case we need confirmation about the firearm. We ate toast for dinner like kids after a long day at the pool. Simple, warm enough. At 5:58, the clock ticked louder than it should. 6:07, no call. 6:19, nothing. At 6:24, my phone rang. Unknown, county sheriff. Ms. Brooks, a new voice said. Sergeant Sue. He didn't show. We attempted contact, voicemail only. We'll be forwarding a failure to relinquish report to the DEA and requesting a judge's action. What does that mean? I asked. Sometimes a search and seizure order for the firearm, Sue said. Sometimes a bench warrant. Depends on the judge. Either way, you did what you were supposed to do. Stay inside tonight. Keep the TRO posted. If he appears, call 911 and don't open the door. After I hung up, my mother-in-law reached for my hand. She asked again, like tea was a charm. The doorbell app chimed. Front yard, motion. My heart climbed into my throat. It was just the flag across the street, snapping once in a wind that hadn't been there a second ago. I exhaled. The house held the breath with me. My phone vibrated with one more message from Klein. FYI, the notary whose seal was forged is willing to testify. She remembers your husband. Said he called her the stamp lady. Lila laughed once, sad, tired, still somehow kind. He would, she said. I pinned the new messages under the TRO with a magnet. Paper layering paper, quiet building on quiet. At 7:02 p.m., the ring cam lit up again. Not my husband, his father. Suit jacket, set jaw, a folder in his hand. He looked straight into the lens and said, Open the door, Maya. We need to discuss a settlement, or I make a call that ends your little trust by morning. He stared straight into the ring cam like it was a person he could intimidate. Open the door, Maya, his father said, voice smooth as a check that's going to bounce. Gray hair barber neat, suit the color of wet pavement, folder tucked under one arm. We can settle this tonight, or I can make a call that ends your little trust by morning. I didn't move. The CHRO wasn't against him. Yet, but paper loves clarity. I wanted his words where paper could hear them. You're being recorded, I said through the intercom. State your business. My business, he said, stepping half a toe onto the doormat, is preventing my son from being robbed. He held up the folder. Proposed stipulation. You vacate, relinquish trustee games, and will be gracious about it. Sign this, and there's even a stipend. Don't sign, and well, judges pick up the phone when I call. From the armchair, my mother-in-law looked up. Don't open, she whispered, fingers tight around her tea. He'll talk you in a circle until you think it's a hug. I set the phone on the console, loudspeaker on. You can leave that packet on the porch, I said. As owner of record and trustee, I'm asking you to step off my threshold. He smiled into the lens, all teeth and money. You think that Garn, Saint Germain nonsense protects you? I'll have the bank call the note at 9 a.m. Transfers to revocable trusts with the borrower as beneficiary are exempt from due on sale, I said, too tired to keep the law out of my throat. 12 U.S.C. 1701J, 3D. Your ex-wife has a life estate. It's recorded. Try another bluff. A beat. Then, elder abuse, he said smoothly. Undue influence. You manipulated a sweet old woman. She's in my living room, I said. You can ask her. He took one step back. Bring her out, then. From the chair, her voice floated to the microphone. Small, clear, unbroken. I signed, she said. Because I wanted to. Because I wanted quiet. Go home, David. He blinked, annoyance cracking into surprise. You don't talk to me like that. I do now, she said, and sipped her tea like a period. I tapped the deputy's card on the console and dialed. Civil standby, I told dispatch. Trespasser refusing to leave after request. Not the respondent on my order. The cruiser rolled up 3 minutes later. Same deputy, same calm. He took in the tableau. Father on the mat, folder in hand. Camera light, porch light. My mother-in-law's knuckles white around china, and turned to the older man with a voice that could sue the horse. Sir, the owner has asked you to leave, he said. This is now trespass. Leave the papers on the step and step off the property. I'm here to settle, the father said. Public policy favors settlement. Public safety favors compliance, the deputy returned. Step down. He placed the folder on the doormat with the delicacy of a man who'd never had to bend his knees. You'll regret this, he said to the lens. By breakfast, you'll be begging me to. A chime cut him off. My phone flashed a banner. From ADA Klein, warrant issued, failure to relinquish. Under it, a second, Sheriff Ops, be advised, bench warrant pending unresponded. The deputy's radio crackled like it had heard the emails. He inclined his head toward the older man. Off the property. Now, the father looked straight into the ring cam one last time. And for a heartbeat, I saw the younger man in him who taught my husband that volume was a currency. Then he stepped back onto the sidewalk and left. I opened the outer door, slid the folder in with my shoe, and closed it again. Inside, NDA, mutual non-disparagement, vacate by Friday, trust assignment to respondent, and a stipend that wouldn't cover the locksmith's invoice. Offer rejected, I told the deputy, holding the papers up so the camera could memorize them too. Copy, he said. If he comes back tonight, call us. Warrant's coming down for your husband. Don't open for anyone who smells like him. Understood. When the cruiser taillights turned the corner, the house exhaled. Lila slid down the wall to sit on the floor like a kid who's been brave too long. My mother-in-law set her cup down, trembling finally aloud into her wrists. Do you need to lie down? I asked her. No, she said. I need to stand up. She did, slowly, an entire decade in the gesture. Where do I sign to say a judge shouldn't be able to undo my choice? Tomorrow we'll get a doctor's capacity letter and a priest's affidavit if you want it, I said. Tonight, we rest. The doorbell app chimed again. Front yard, motion. Not a person this time. A thin fan of papers being slid under the door. I picked them up. Petition to invalidate trust, alleging undue influence, elder abuse, fraudulent conveyance. Hearing date stamped in 2 weeks. Fast, like someone had stood in the clerk's line at 4:59. Tony texted before I could. He filed. Got it flagged for expedited. Don't panic. Send me your capacity letters. We'll attach the notary affidavits and the life estate page. Judges hate undoing clean recordings. Let him try, my mother-in-law said, reading the caption with her maiden name misspelled. He can't even remember who I am on paper. We ate soup standing up, 2 wired to sit, then packed a small tote with tomorrow's errands. Clinic address for the capacity evaluation, parish office hours for the priest's letter, Tony's checklists, Klein's card. At 9:12, my phone buzzed again. HR, Elena. Administrative leave, converted to termination for cause. Policy violations plus failure to cooperate. We will forward any threatening communications to law enforcement. I forwarded that to Klein. She replied with a single word, good. At 10:03, Lila pulled a blanket over her mother and sat guard like a lighthouse. I stuck the petition to invalidate on the cork board under the CHRO where it could learn what it felt like to lose. I wrote 1 line on a sticky note and pressed it beside them. Paper beat shouting. The house slept lightly. At 1:16 a.m., the ring cam pinged again. Not him. A slow, deliberate scrape under the driver's side of my car. A figure in a hoodie, flat on his back, hand working at something near the front tire. He slid out, looked straight at the lens, and lifted his phone. The screen lit his face. His cousin. He pointed to the tire and smiled like a child with a secret. I whispered, 911, and the call center's map flowered on the screen. Do not go outside, the operator said. Units en route. The cruiser arrived silent. No lights, like a fisher walking up on a gull. The cousin froze, rabbit still, then tried to scuttle under the car again. 2 officers bracketed him with beams, hands ready. Hands where we can see them, one said, calm and bored the way safety sometimes is. Stand up. Turn around. They walked him to the curb and patted him down. The deputy lifted a paper bag. Inside, a box cutter, a tire punch, a bottle of sugar. The officer glanced at the camera. We got you Facebook Live guy, he said. Good evening. They asked if I wanted to press charges. Paper said yes. I said yes. They drove him away with the sugar bag on the seat like a mascot. We slept after that. Not well. Enough. Morning brought a bird at the feeder, sunlight on the new deadbolt, and a text from Tony with 3 words that tasted like coffee. Judge signed warrant. I poured tea and set 3 cups on the table. I opened a folder of tomorrow to-dos. I pressed my hand to the corkboard and felt the quiet hum back. When a knock came at 9:01 a.m., it wasn't a fist. It was Priest Daniel, collar bright, clipboard ready. I hear we're writing the truth down today, he said, stepping into the light. 10 minutes into the priest's affidavit, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. Then the voicemail transcribed itself in real time. This is Detective Sue. We have your husband in custody. He's asking for a visit. Says he wants to talk settlement and apologize. Do you want to be present for the interview? If this chapter had you whispering, paper beats shouting. Tap like, drop a comment with the line that hit you hardest, and subscribe so you don't miss next chapter, where a bench warrant, a priest's affidavit, and a jailhouse apology collide. Turn on notifications to catch the next twist the moment it drops. I replayed the voicemail twice to be sure. This is Detective Sue. We have your husband in custody. He's asking for a visit. Says he wants to talk settlement and apologize. Do you want to be present for the interview? Different voice than last night's Sergeant Ken Sue from the sheriff. Lighter, clipped, City PD. Same last name. Same steadiness. I called ADA Klein first. Only if it's in a recorded room with me and a detective present, she said. No side hallways. No quick chats. And you don't have to accept any apology. This is for information, not absolution. What about the priest and the capacity letter? I asked. Priest Daniel was at the table with my mother-in-law, pen poised over his affidavit. The clinic had squeezed us into a noon slot with Dr. Chun for a cognitive evaluation. Get your proof of capacity first, Klein said. Then come to the station at 2. Detective Lena Sue, different Sue, City DV unit, will run the interview. Bring your ring cam clip on a thumb drive. The priest's affidavit took 13 quiet minutes. He wrote what he had seen and known for 20 years. Her name, her parish, the way she still read the readings without stumbling, the way she balanced the church books with the clarity of a ledger. When he finished, he slid the page toward her. "Truth looks good on paper," he said gently. She signed in a careful hand. "I like truth out loud too," she said. At Dr. Chin's office, the test was a series of ordinary miracles. Recall 3 words. Draw a clock. Subtract by 7s. Explain a proverb. She did them all, then added one. "What does quiet enjoyment mean to you?" Dr. Chin asked, glancing at the trust page I brought. "A chair," she said simply, and no one shouting. Dr. Chin smiled and checked a box. "Capacity intact," she said, printing the words on letterhead with a fountain pen that sounded like affirmation. By 1:48 p.m., we had the priest's affidavit, the doctor's letter, and a vacuumed kitchen that smelled faintly of cloves. Lila stayed home with her mother. I drove downtown with the documents in a plastic sleeve that made them look more fragile than they felt. The station's interview room 3 had a table, a clock, and a camera red light the size of a freckle. Detective Lena Sue, early 40s, hair in a bun that meant business, placed a bottle of water at my elbow and another at the far chair. "This interview is audio and video recorded," she said, diction clean as a checklist. "Present are ADA Klein, Detective L. Sue, and complainant Maya Brooks. Respondent will be escorted in shortly. Ms. Brooks, you are here voluntarily. You may leave at any time. If at any point you feel unsafe, say so. We will end the interview." "I'm not here to negotiate," I said, more to myself than to them. "Good," Klein said. "We're here to listen and to document." They brought him in cuffed at the wrists, orange jumpsuit loud in a room designed for neutrals. He didn't look at me first. He looked at the camera and then at Klein's stack of forms like a man checking exits. "Maya," he said, trying for soft. His voice found a hard place instead. He swallowed. "I'm sorry. Start with your name for the record," Detective Sue said, saving me from having to receive anything. He did. She read him a rights advisement. He waved because he had things to say and thought saying them out loud made them smaller. "I didn't bring the gun because I couldn't," he said quickly, like bargaining chips were falling from his mouth. "My dad took it to storage," he said, turning it in makes the family look weak. Klein wrote, "Firearm location, father's storage." "Storage address?" she asked, and he gave it. "Unit number?" "Gate code." He gave those too, the numbers spilling easier than empathy. "And the cousin?" Detective Sue asked. "The sugar and the tire?" He exhaled like a boy caught with a lighter. "He did that on his own," he said, and then, seeing the calculation land wrong on Klein's face, "Okay, I told him to make it hard for her to drive to court." "I didn't say sugar. I just said, something. You understand that's tampering and vandalism?" Klein asked. He stared at the table. "I understand jail now," he said. Detective Sue slid a sheet toward him. "Tell us about the notary," she said, almost conversational. 10 years ago." He blinked. "What notary?" "The one you tried to fake so you could add yourself to the house," I said, voice steady. "We have the fraud affidavit." He deflated in a visible way. "My dad said we could fix the paper," he muttered. "He told me the stamp lady would do it for cash. We went to the UPS store, but she wasn't there. He said just sign and he'd handle the rest." "And did he?" Detective Sue asked. "Apparently not," he said, bitterness seeping through. "Story of my life." Klein didn't look up. "You tried to record a false instrument," she said. "You gave the sheriff a fake location for the weapon. You violated a TRO within 3 hours by instructing someone to damage her car. You understand the exposure here." He nodded, small as a nod could be. "Why ask for this meeting?" Detective Sue said, tone even. He looked at me then, finally. "Not the camera. Not the floor." "Because I'm done," he said. "Because I don't want to be the man who kicks his wife on Thanksgiving and then ends up on the internet forever. Because my dad has been running my life since I was 12, and I thought that made me strong, but it made me like him." The red light didn't blink. It just watched. I'll plead, he said, flipping his hand like surrender. Whatever. Something that doesn't wreck me permanently. I'll do classes. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't take my mom away from me. No one corrected his pronoun. Klein capped her pen. Here's what this looks like if you want credit for cooperation, she said. You plead to misdemeanor battery in violation of a restraining order. You stipulate to a 3-year protective order, 52-week DV program, firearm prohibition, and no contact. You provide sworn statements on the notary attempt and the storage unit. You stop all efforts to interfere with trust property. You testify truthfully in any proceeding about your father's attempts to manipulate title. He flinched at testify. You ask what you can do for your mom, Klein added, tone not unkind. You could stop making her life louder. He swallowed. What about the house? The house is not yours, she said. It never was. We're done pretending otherwise. He nodded again, eyes on the water bottle he hadn't touched. Okay, he whispered. Okay. Detective Sue recited a list of follow-ups for the tape. Klein slid a proffer agreement across, narrow and specific. He signed with hands that shivered just enough to make the letters honest. Outside the room, the air tasted like printer toner and a storm moving farther away. You good? Detective Sue asked me, reading something in my shoulders. I will be, I said. Klein checked her phone and frowned. Heads up, she said. His father filed an emergency conservatorship petition this morning. Claims your mother-in-law lacks capacity and needs him as temporary conservator to manage her estate, i.e., unwind your trust. Today, I asked, stomach dropping. Ex parte calendar at 4 p.m., she said. That's why we needed Dr. Chun and Father Daniel this morning. We're going to court again. We made it to the courthouse with 4 minutes to spare. Tony met us at the clerk's window, already stapling and stamping like a pianist. Petition's thin, she whispered. One doctor's letter. This guy signs anything for the golf club, and a declaration from Dad about confusion because she called quiet enjoyment a chair. She did, I said. On purpose. Good, Tony said. Judges know the difference between a chair and a diagnosis. In Department 7, father-in-law sat in the front row, the same wet pavement suit, a new lawyer with a tie so tight it looked like it was strangling the truth. On our side, me, Lila holding her mother's hand, Tasha the advocate, Klein with a stack, Dr. Chin's affidavit, Priest Daniel's letter. The judge scanned both piles. Petitioner seeks temporary conservatorship over Ms. maiden name, claiming recent confusion and vulnerability, he said. Opposition includes a same-day capacity assessment by Dr. Chun and a clergy affidavit attesting to long-standing cognitive function. Petitioner, what else do you have? Father-in-law's lawyer cleared his throat. Her decision to transfer the residence was impulsive and against the family's wishes, he said. She is susceptible to undue influence. Being unpopular at Thanksgiving is not a diagnosis, the judge said dryly. Any medical evidence beyond this one-paragraph letter? We can obtain more, the lawyer said. I bet you can, the judge said. Petition denied without prejudice. No temporary orders. If you wish to pursue a general conservatorship, file properly and serve all parties. I will not undo a cleanly recorded trust with a life estate on this flimsy showing. A sound left Lila like a bird leaving a cage. My mother-in-law squeezed her fingers and nodded at me once, the way you nod at someone who remembered to bring an umbrella. Outside, my phone buzzed with 2 messages stacked like dominoes. Sheriff Ops. Search warrant executed at storage unit. Firearm recovered. Logged and secured. Detective L. Sue, he signed. We have a formal proffer. I'll route to Klein for charging and to property crimes for the notary attempt. We walked to the parking lot slow, letting the concrete know we were done with it for the day. The sun had the warmth of a room where people finally speak the same language. At home, the court board looked heavier with victory. CHRO, notary affidavit, priest letter, doctor letter, order denying conservatorship. It was starting to look like a museum of things that had tried to be louder than paper and failed. We ate dinner sitting down. At 8:12 p.m., a notification flashed across my phone, not from the ring cam or the court, but from Northline Fabrication's public account. Statement: Northline has zero tolerance for violence on or off duty. Effective today, we have terminated an employee for conduct inconsistent with our values. We are partnering with a local DV nonprofit to provide training and support. I forwarded it to Tasha, who replied with a heart. At 9:03 p.m., I got one last message from an email address that had always felt like a closed door: father-in-law@sandholdings.com. Subject: Final offer. Withdraw the CHRO. Vacate the house. Assign the trust to me. In exchange, I will pay you $25,000 and make this go away. You have until 10 a.m. I stared at the number, small and mean. I didn't reply. Klein did, from her official account, CC&G him, his lawyer, and the judge's clerk. Any further attempts to induce the victim to abandon protective orders or transfer property will be treated as witness tampering. All communications must go through counsel. The house breathed. At 11:57 p.m., the ring cam pinged, silent figures moving at the side gate. Two men in ball caps and gloves. One carried a duffel. The other looked up directly into the lens and smiled with a mouth I knew too well: father-in-law's. The ring cam view of the side gate was fisheye and honest. Two men in ball caps and gloves, one with a duffel. The taller one looked up and smiled with a mouth I knew: his father. I didn't touch the door. I touched the 911 tile. Two males at my side gate with tools, I said. One is my husband's father. He was warned off the property an hour ago. There's a temporary restraining order against my husband, none yet against his father. We also have a judge's denial of his conservatorship. Stay inside, the dispatcher said. Officers en route. Do not confront. On the feed, the shorter man, crouched by the latch, took something from the duffel. The metal-to-metal scrape came through the mic like a fork on teeth. The father cupped a hand to the camera and said softly, "Come say hello, mother. We'll get your things." From the armchair, my mother-in-law sat straighter, chin lifting like a small flag. "I'm home," she said, to me, to herself, to the house that had learned her heartbeat. "We're not opening." Blue strobes painted the fences within 3 minutes. The officers came around the corner of the house in a wedge, lights low, hands ready. "Police," one called, calm, declarative. "Hand where we can see them." The shorter man straightened, palms up. The father turned slowly like an actor refusing direction. "We're here for a civil retrieval," he said smoothly. "Family property. Civil retrievals go through the sheriff with paperwork," the officer said. "Do you have a court order?" He held up the same manila folder I'd towed and off the mat earlier. "Proposed settlement," he said. "We're close." The officer looked at his gloves. "Sir, you're trespassing," he said, "and you brought tools for a locked gate." He took the duffel with 2 fingers. Inside, bolt cutters, a flathead screwdriver ground to a chisel, a short pry bar, plastic zip ties. The officer held the bag up so the ring cam could memorize it. "Turn around," he said to the father. "Hands behind your back." "You can't be serious," the father said, incredulous as a man who'd never heard no. "Serious as a statute," the officer said, and clicked cuffs in a tone that sounded like punctuation. They cited the shorter man for trespass and released him. They booked the father into a car that felt like a sentence he understood only when it touched his wrists. As they pulled away, he craned against the window to look at the side of the house, as if it might follow him. I sent the clip to ADA Klein and Detective Lena Sue before my heart rate had fully descended. Klein replied one word: "Good." Detective Sue added, "Forwarding to property crimes and DV. Tool bag equals possession of burglary tools." His earlier email equals witness tampering. Expect quick action. We slept like people in a house that had learned 3 new words: locked, lawful, hours. By morning, Klein had filed an ex parte civil harassment petition against the father on my behalf and my mother-in-law's. We brought Dr. Chin's capacity letter and Father Daniel's affidavit. Tony met us at the clerk's counter again, stapling like metronome time. In Department 12, the judge skimmed fast. "Temporary civil harassment restraining order is granted," she said. "Stay away 200 yards from Ms. Brooks and Ms. maiden name. No contact. No third-party contact. No social media mention. No attempted entry or approach to the residence. Surrender any keys immediately. No firearms. Hearing on permanent orders in 3 weeks. I felt my mother-in-law's hand find my sleeve and squeeze once quick. "Thank you," she whispered, to the judge, to me, to the room that listened. Outside the courtroom, Tasha met us with a roll of blue painter's tape and a little grin. "Let's post the CHRO next to the TRO," she said. "Make the court board look like a wall that knows its job." We did. The header, Civil Harassment Restraining Order, looked good beside Temporary Restraining Order. Paper talking to paper. Boundaries telling stories to anyone who came too close. At noon, we called a house meeting. Not the kind with raised voices and chairs scraping. Father Daniel came with tea and a 3-line agenda. Lila took minutes on a legal pad like a board secretary. My mother-in-law wore her glasses chain proud and straight. I wrote House Covenant at the top of a clean page and underlined it twice. We said the rules out loud, then wrote them down in ink that didn't smudge. Quiet enjoyment means no shouting, door slamming, or surprise arrivals. Visitors by invitation only. Lila and Mother may invite. No one else. Share a standby for any property retrieval. No exceptions. Keys, 3 sets. 1 for me, 1 for Mother, 1 sealed envelope at Tony's desk in case of emergency. Safe word for phone calls that feel wrong. Ledger. Porch light code stays hours. 2 quick flicks means come to the door. Off on off means call 911. We signed the bottom. Mine in block letters. My mother-in-law's in the cursive of a woman who'd done more with ink than some men do with money. Father Daniel witnessed. We tacked the covenant on the board under the orders, a small constitution to govern the air. The locksmith came back at 2 to add a lock to the side gate and rekey the shed. He gave Mother a key on a small brass ring. She clipped it to her cardigan pocket like a medal. "It's funny," she said, weighing the set in her palm. "Men always wanted to carry my purse. No one ever asked if I wanted to carry the keys." I put my set in my pocket, felt their weight against my thigh. "We're asking now," I said. At 4, Detective Sue texted. Father-in-law booked, cited, and released pending filing. Tool bag logged. DA to file misdemeanor counts today. Felony if we can tie him to prior attempts. At 5, property crimes emailed Klein. The storage unit search had turned up not just the handgun, but a folder labeled stamps, photocopies of notary seals, blank deed templates, a list of friends who help with 3 names and phone numbers. Klein forwarded the scan with a line that was equal parts satisfaction and warning. "This goes beyond your house." "We'll take it." We ate soup around the table, like it could teach us something about warmth. My mother-in-law told Lila about the first apartment she'd rented at 19, how the landlord had refused to put her name on the buzzer until she showed up with a typed, signed lease and a pastor who knew his scripture and his statutes. "Paper," she said, tapping her temple. "Always paper." At 8, the doorbell rang. Not a knock, the bell polite. Tony stood on the porch with a bakery box and a county lanyard. "I'm off the clock," she said, raising the box like a permit. "Also, the judge's clerk wanted you to have this." She handed me a stamped minute order denying the father's conservatorship again, in case he tried to refile in a different department. "And this," she tapped the box, "is a cake that says deed is not equal to mortgage because the records room took a vote." We cut small squares and ate in the kitchen with our elbows on wood. Lila laughed for the first time in 3 days and snorted frosting. At 9, my phone vibrated with a name I hadn't expected, Elena from Northline. "We posted our statement," she said. "The DV nonprofit you recommended. We've partnered with them. They asked if you'd be willing to speak at a training next month. You don't have to. You owe no one your story." "I'll think about it," I said. "Thank you for asking like that." At 10, the house settled into that late stretch where the refrigerator hum counts minutes. I checked the locks once. Mother checked them twice. Lila whispered ledger, once into an empty air, smiled when the room didn't answer, and went to bed. The ring cam pinged at 11:06. Not a man with a tool bag. A woman in a blazer with a press badge and a cameraman who looked embarrassed by his own equipment. "Ms. Brooks?" she called, polite but hungry. "I'm a Channel 7. The video of yesterday's lock change and Thanksgiving incident is trending. We're doing a segment on holiday domestic incidents. Would you like to comment? We'd love to feature your paper beats shouting quote. I thought of the cork board, the covenant, the cake. I thought of the women who would watch and feel their own keys too heavy, their own paper too thin. Not tonight, I said through the intercom, but soon, on my terms, with resources, not just a story, a map. She nodded into the lens like she heard the difference. We'll wait, she said. The camera light clicked off. The porch light clicked on once, twice. Our code, because Mother had flicked it from her chair, testing the lines between who we were and who we were going to be. We slept without sirens. At 7:32 a.m., my phone buzzed with 2 new filings, criminal charges against the father, possession of burglary tools, attempt to dissuade a witness, and a civil subpoena bearing a letterhead I recognized, Asani Holdings. He wanted Mother deposed on capacity, anyway, tomorrow at 9. And below that, a text from Klein, we're fighting it. But if he wants a record, let's give him one, with Dr. Chun, Father Daniel, and a court reporter who knows the law better than his lawyer does. By 7:45 a.m., Klein had already filed a motion to quash the subpoena and, in the alternative, a protective order. Limited scope, 1 hour, no father present because of the CHRO. Dr. Chun allowed to sit in, breaks on request, and no coaching from interested parties. At 8:21, Tony texted, Department 9 will hear it at 8:45. I'll be at the counter with stamped copies. We walked in with a rolling bag of paper and left 20 minutes later with an order that read like good fencing. Deposition goes forward today at 11 a.m. Scope limited to orientation, understanding of the trust, independent reasons for signing, and daily functioning. Duration, 60 minutes total, with 5-minute break rights at any time. Location, neutral court reporter's office, video recorded. No attendance or live appearance by father-in-law. Counsel only. Any off-camera coaching equals sanctions. Judges don't love fishing expeditions, Klein said as we took the elevator down. Let's give them a clean record and then shut this door for good. The reporter's conference room had neutral art and the soft carpet of places where voices are meant to land gently. Court reporter Sharon, 50s, precise glasses, steady fingers, set the mics, and did her oath sing-song. Please raise your right hand, Sharon said to Mother. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do, Mother said, and her voice made the words sound like a house, key turning. Father's counsel was all polished impatience. 40s, navy pinstripe, hair too wet, red tie, strangling sincerity. He stated appearances. Klein did the same. Dr. Chun sat beside Mother with her letter on top of a neat file. Father Daniel occupied the corner chair like a quiet landmark. I sat at the end of the table with Lila, a silent pillar. State your full name for the record, counsel began. Mother did, first and maiden and married, clipping each syllable like coupons. Do you know why you're here today? Yes, she said. To answer questions about my mind and my house. Have you taken any medications today that would affect your ability to testify? Blood pressure, she said, eyes steady. Same one for 20 years. Asked Dr. Chun. Counsel's smile pinched. Do you understand what a trust is? Yes, she said. It is a paper box you put a house in so shouting cannot open it. Sharon's fingers paused for half a beat, then flew. And why did you sign the Maple Street Trust? Counsel pressed. Because my son shouts, she said simply. Because my daughter-in-law does not. Because I wanted quiet enjoyment and a chair. Objection, Klein said mild. Calls for legal conclusion as to trust effects. She may answer as to her personal reasons. Mother looked at counsel. I signed because I wanted to stay and sit, she said. I sign my name when I mean it. I meant it. Counsel shuffled papers he didn't need to shuffle. Do you remember the date you signed? June 14th, she said. The clerk's girl had red glasses. Her name was Tony. She complimented my cardigan and stamped very straight. Klein slid a certified copy of the recording receipt forward without looking smug. Exhibit 3, she said. Where did you sign? Counsel tried. On my sister's dining table, Mother said. With Father Daniel saying a prayer he keeps just for big pens. Who explained it to you? The lawyer, she said. He used small words and big paper. He said, Life estate means you can sit in your chair until you are done sitting. That was enough. Counsel switched angles. Do you manage your own money? I write my own checks, she said. I balance a ledger with a pen, not a phone. She tapped the purse at her feet. Would you like to see my ledger? Please, Klein said before counsel could object. Mother placed the little book on the table. Each line was a neat ant trail. Date, payee, amount, purpose, margin notes like fixed lamp and Lila bus pass. The last entry, cake for Tony/deed is not equal to mortgage, thank you. Sharon's mouth almost smiled. Counsel did not. Do you know the consequences of transferring a house into a trust? He asked, another tack. Yes, she said. It made the house honest. It gave Maya work and gave me peace. It made my son very angry. That is not my consequence. That is his. Objection. Non-responsive insofar as it characterizes third-party emotions, Klein said softly. Move to strike. Subject to the motion, answer stands. Counsel tried debate. Isn't it true you are often confused? Mother folded her hands. Sometimes I forget where I put my glasses, she said. I do not forget my name or my chair. Klein leaned forward. Doctor. Dr. Chun lifted her letter. Capacity is intact, she said for the microphone. Oriented ×4. Understands the nature and consequences of her decisions. Can communicate a stable preference. Her answers today are consistent with my exam. Counsel pivoted to me. Ms. Brooks, did you pressure? Counsel, Klein said. Scope is limited to mother's capacity and understanding. He pressed his lips thin. No further questions at this time, he said, and it sounded exactly like what it was, defeat deferred. Cross. Sharon asked. Klein nodded. Mother, did anyone threaten you to sign? No. Did anyone pay you to sign? No. Is it still your wish to live in the house under the life estate and for Maya to manage the property as trustee? Yes, she said, until I am done sitting. No further questions, Klein said. We'll reserve the right to use this transcript in any future conservatorship or property proceedings. Sharon clicked her machine off. Please read and sign, she asked, and Mother nodded, already reaching for a pen like it was a familiar friend. As we packed up, Counsel glanced at his phone and blanched. We're off the record, he announced too fast. We are not, Sharon said, thumb hovering. The red light stayed on. Counsel put the phone down. Too late. The notification banner had been big enough for all of us to see. Property crimes, filing decision, felony forgery counts against David Asani. We left the deposition in a column of quiet satisfaction. On the sidewalk, Notary Patricia V. stood with a banker's box and a calm that came from a different kind of ink. You must be Maya, she said. I brought my journal and my commission records. And I brought cookies because Tony told me I might finally get to look that man in the eye. You will, Klein said. Just not today. My phone buzzed. 2 messages landed together. Detective Lena Sue, father-in-law arrested on new felony forgery counts, based on stamps folder. Arraignment tomorrow, 8:30. You don't need to appear. ADA Klein. We're moving to consolidate his witness tampering, burglary tools, and forgery cases. Different judges, but same story. Shouting versus paper. We drove home with the windows cracked, letting the day out. Inside, the court board had started to look like a city plan. Streets of orders and affidavits, crosswalks of dates and receipts. Read and sign, my mother-in-law said with a small grin, and Sharon's rough transcript went next to the covenant with a sticky note. I sign my name when I mean it. At 6:12 p.m., Elena from Northline texted again. Our staff training is set. We'd still love you to speak, but only if it serves you. We can also route donations to the DV nonprofit you recommended. Maybe after the hearing, I replied. I want to give people a map, not just a story. At 8:01 p.m., Channel 7 emailed. We'll wait for your timing. When you're ready, we'll include resources in your paper beats shouting checklist. We drank tea. We locked doors. We let the house remember the shape of our footsteps. At 10:29, a final message from Klein. Permanent DV and CHRO hearings are moved up to Friday. Judge had an opening. Bring Mother, Dr. Chun, and Father Daniel. We'll end the temporary and make it permanent. Permanent, Mother said, trying the word on her tongue. I like that. We slept. The flag across the street did not move. At 7:05 a.m. the next day, the ring cam caught a courier sliding a thick envelope under the door. Return address, bank counsel. Inside, a letter attempting to accelerate the mortgage signed yesterday. At the bottom, in small print, an exemption I could have recited in my sleep. 12 U.S.C. section 1701J 3D8. I smiled, picked up a pen, and wrote one line on the reply. Deed is not equal to mortgage. Trust transfer exempt. See attached. Then I stapled Tony's stamp on top like a bow. If watching Mother turn a deposition into a masterclass in calm made you exhale, hit like, drop a comment with a line you'd put in your own house covenant, and subscribe for next chapter. The bank's letter tried to sound taller than the law. Notice of acceleration. Due to an unauthorized transfer, the undersigned elects to accelerate. I set on the table beside Tony's crisp stamp and wrote a single line across the top, like a teacher on a pop quiz. 12 U.S.C. section 1701J 3D. 8 transfer to a revocable trust with a borrower as a beneficiary is exempt from due on sale. See attached recording and trust pages. I stapled the certified deed, the trust life estate page, and the assessor printout behind it, then walked it to the branch like a woman returning a coat that never fit. The manager read, paled, and called bank counsel on speaker. We withdraw the acceleration, counsel said tightly. Our letter was premature. Your withdrawal, I said, will be in writing. By the time I reached the parking lot, Tony had texted, bank filed a rescind. Dropped a copy in your online portal. I added a sticky that says deed is not equal to mortgage for morale. At 10 a.m., we were back at the courthouse for the permanent hearings. One hallway, 2 doors, 2 judges who wore the same black robe very differently. Department 5, DV. My husband came in on the chain, cleaner than last time, eyes quieter. ADA, Klein had a stipulation ready. The proffer attached like a signature shadow. On calendar, the judge said, permanent domestic violence restraining order. Stipulated, Klein said, to 5 years, stay away 100 yards, no contact, firearm prohibition continued, 52-week DV program, restitution for property damage, tire, sugar attempt, and no third-party contact through relatives or social media. He consents to recording of a victim impact statement at sentencing. The judge looked at him. Sir, he swallowed. Yes, Your Honor. Order is granted, she said, pen moving like a metronome. Violations are arrestable. Program is not optional. Court sets review in 90 days. Ms. Brooks, you may submit your impact statement by video. I nodded. I didn't look at him. The red light on the courtroom recorder watched for me. Department 12, CHRO, father-in-law in a navy suit the color of stormwater, a lawyer with a new tie and the same old tone. Our side. Me. Mother with her glasses chained straight. Lila, Dr. Chun, Father Daniel, and the notary, Patricia V., with her journal like a small, bound truth. Permanent civil harassment restraining order, the judge said, scanning the pages. Allegations. Attempted entry with tools, witness tampering email, ongoing efforts to invalidate a valid trust. Response, hand-waving. Klein slid the tool bag photo, the email, the search warrant inventory from his storage unit labeled stamps. The judge raised an eyebrow. Possession of photocopied notary seals and blank deeds, he said flatly, is not a hobby. Your Honor, father's counsel tried. My client was merely... Enough. The judge signed without drama. 3-year order for Ms. Brooks and Ms. Maiden name. 200 yards, no contact, no third-party contact, no approach to the residence. Immediate surrender of any keys, no firearms. Any deposition of Ms. Maiden name in any proceeding will be limited as previously ordered. Sanctions on any further misuse of process. Mother exhaled, a small bird of breath. Lila's hand shook where it held the edge of the bench, then stilled. Outside, Tony appeared like a benevolent sprite with a stack of minute orders and a grin. The stamp room cheered, she said, quietly. By afternoon, the house felt like a body coming back from fever. We did something we hadn't done in a long time, We planned instead of braced. Let's put the dining table to work, I said. A ledger fund. Microgrants for women who need paper more than pep talks. Filing fees. Notary costs. First hour with a clinic lawyer. Lock changes with a civil standby. Call a map, not a fund, Tasha texted when I sent her the idea. People need steps, not slogans. We'll get the DV nonprofit to host the intake. Elena at Northline Fabrication replied to my note in 9 minutes. We'll seed it. $10,000 to start, and paid time for staff to attend your training. We'll order cake from Tony's Bakery. I'll volunteer, Notary Patricia wrote back. Free stamps on anything survivors need. And a class called How Notaries Really Work. We drew a flyer with boxes you could check. Clerk's recording appointment. Certified copy pickup. Locksmith with civil standby. TRO/CHRO packet and advocate. Capacity letter, if needed. Media note template. Resources, not spectacle. Father Daniel added a line at the bottom. A chair and no shouting. At 5:12 p.m., my phone lit with a message from a number labeled Public Defender. Client asks if his mother will permit a supervised, third-party visit at church courtyard. No contact with Ms. Brooks. No approach to residents. Weekends after DV class only. Interested? I forwarded it to Klein and placed the phone in Mother's hands. She read, set it down, and looked out the window for a long moment. I will not see him while he is still loud, she said. When he has 12 weeks of class done, when the priest and the detective say he is quiet in their rooms, then I will sit at a table with Lila and the deputy watching. Not before. Not at this house. I typed exactly that. The PD replied with a simple, understood. At 7:40 p.m., Channel 7 aired a segment called Paper Beats Shouting. They didn't show faces. They showed checklists and phone numbers, a civil standby at a lock change where the loudest sound was a screwdriver and the tick of a court clock. They put the DV hotline on the screen for 30 seconds that felt like a long time on TV. The house watched itself on the screen without mirrors. We ate toast again because it tasted like peace. At 9:03 p.m., Klein texted, arraignment tomorrow for father, felony forgery, attempt to dissuade a witness, misdemeanor possession of burglary tools, bail with stay-away conditions. You don't need to appear. I pinned the permanent orders to the cork board, right above the house covenant. The board was a map now, where we'd been, where we refused to go back to, and the streets other women could walk next without getting lost. At 10:18 p.m., Tony sent a final message. Your portal has a new folder called Templates. I dropped in your letter to the bank, your covenant, and your resource flyer. Names redacted. Women are already asking. Hope you don't mind. I don't. I said aloud to the kitchen and to anyone listening. Make 1,000 copies. We slept with the kind of fatigue that does not fear doors. At 6:32 a.m., Detective Lena Sue called. Quick update, she said. Father tried to hire a notary to fix old paperwork from inside the jail. Recorded line. We've added attempted fraud while in custody. Also, the judge moved sentencing on your husband to next week and invited a victim impact video from you and from Mother if she wishes. Mother set her tea down like a gavel. I will read and sign, she said, and I will speak. If this chapter's permanent orders and ledger fund made you breathe easier, tap like, comment the one step you'd add to our Paper Beats shouting checklist, and subscribe so you don't miss next chapter. The 1 year later finale where Thanksgiving has a new address, a key with a ribbon changes hands, and the map becomes a movement. Hit to get the second it drops. 1 year later, the maple over our porch had learned 4 seasons of quiet. The court board on the kitchen wall was gone. Not because we forgot what it held, but because we framed it. The permanent DV order, the CHRO, the house covenant under glass, and a photo of sheet cake that read deed is not equal to mortgage and frosting. Thanksgiving had a new address, ours by invitation only. The guest list was a map of how we'd gotten here. Tony with a bakery box balanced on a stack of stamped minute orders. Tasha carrying a roll of blue painter's tape she refused to retire. Detective Lena Sue with a bouquet and a grin she tried to hide. ADA Klein with a small notebook and the look of a runner at the finish line. Dr. Chun and Father Daniel with their calm combined. Notary Patricia, setting her bag under a chair like a talisman. Elena from Northline, with a donation envelope tucked inside a pie tin, because some gifts like to look like dessert. Before we eat, Mother said, glasses change shining. We will set a key right. I brought out a small box. Inside, a brass key on a red ribbon, engraved on one side, quiet on the other ledger. Last year, I said, we promised 3 keys. Mine, Mother's, and one sealed at Tony's desk for emergencies. Today, we add the successor trustee key, because maps are only useful if someone can carry them when you need to sit. I tied the ribbon around Lila's wrist. She blinked hard and squared her shoulders like a woman who had just been handed something heavier and kinder than a burden. Read and sign, Mother teased softly. We laughed. In the framed house covenant, the ink looked new again. Updates were woven into the table talk like pepper. He pled, like he said he would. The judge watched our impact statement videos without blinking. The sentence landed without drama. 5-year order, 52-week DV program, restitution, no firearms, no contact. He finished the classes. He sends a letter through the public defender twice a year. Mother met him once, 12 weeks after the classes were done, in the church courtyard with Father Daniel and a deputy nearby. He apologized, a sentence where every word was smaller than it used to be. She listened. Quiet looks good on you, she told him. Keep doing it somewhere that isn't my house. She did not rescind anything. Father-in-law tried to run a notary ring from a recorded jail phone. Felony forgery, attempt to dissuade a witness, possession of burglary tools. He pled to a stack that looks smaller on paper than it feels in life. Probation with a suspended sentence. Bar from acting in any fiduciary capacity. Stayaways burned into the order and the calendar. He hasn't stood on our sidewalk in 11 months and 26 days. I know because the ring cam learned to sleep. Cousin did 3 weekends picking up trash and turned his live streams into videos of dogs he fosters for the shelter. He sent me a DM that said simply, I was loud. I'm trying to be useful. The bank sent a written rescission and a second letter that almost sounded like an apology. Your cited exemption applies. We regret the error. We filed it in the frame behind the cake photo because dessert deserves receipts. The map desk, what we started calling the flyers and stamps and clinic appointments, became a door with a small sign by the clerk's counter. Paper beats shouting, start here. In 12 months, 312 protective orders filed, 184 law changes with civil standbys, 67 capacity letters, 0 due on sale accelerations that survived a citation to 12 U.S.C. Section 1701J 3D 8. The DV nonprofit hosts the intake. Northline seeded it and keeps seeding. Notary Patricia runs a free hour called How Notaries Really Work every other Thursday. Channel 7 did a follow-up called The Map and ran the hotline number longer than their sponsors liked. We keep going. We ate with our elbows on wood, and nothing mechanical pinged except the oven telling us the rolls were warm. After pie, Detective Sue stood and cleared her throat like a person who only speaks ceremonial words when she has earned them. On behalf of the people who wear this badge, she said, touching the metal like a living thing, thank you for showing us how to do this right. Document. Don't escalate. Show up. Bring paper. And cake, Tony added. Never forget cake. We toasted with tea. Mother lifted her cup like a gavel. A chair, she said, smiling in the exact way of someone who had the seat she wanted and no shouting. When the sun shifted across the floorboards, we moved chairs to keep the light on our shoulders. The house had learned how to hold us without bracing. At dusk, the porch light did our code, 2 quick flicks, because Mother still liked to try it once a day. Across the street, the flag barely moved. The ring cam noted a courier who knew to leave packages on the bench, and a neighbor boy who ran up to ask if the cake had seconds. It did. Later, when the dishes were stacked and the last goodbye had a see you at the map desk tucked into it, I stood in the doorway with the framed orders behind me and the quiet in front. We didn't make the world silent. We made this house unstolen. We turned one woman's ledger into a list other women can copy. We learned that paper is not just something you wave, it's something you build. Before bed, I added one more line to the house covenant with a fountain pen that sounded like confidence. 7. If anyone asks for the map, We hand them a key. The maple above the porch lifted one branch in the wind, like it had a question, and then remembered the answer. The house slept, and the quiet had a heartbeat. If this finale gave you that deep, quiet breath, hit like, tell us in the comments which line you're adding to your house covenant, and subscribe. We're spinning this story into a paper beats shouting mini-series with checklists, scripts, and real-world resources. Tap so you don't miss the toolkit drops, and share this with someone who needs a map and a key today.